Let me ask you something strange, something most men never think about. What if the strongest power inside you is not your muscles, not your money, not even your mind, but your desire? Yeah, that same desire that feels wild, that same fire that sometimes controls you. What if that fire was actually the thing that could build your legacy or destroy it? You ever wonder why some men feel empty even when they chase women? You ever notice how some men lose themselves in lust, like they forget who they are? You ever feel like your desire is running your life instead of you running it? And have you ever asked, why even when a man gives everything, tries so hard, proves himself, he still ends up hurt, rejected, invisible? Why does chasing make her distance grow? Why does giving too much make your value shrink? Nobody tells men this, not your school, not your parents, not society. But I'm telling you right now, sexual energy is not for chasing women, it's for building the man women chase. And here's the crazy part. When you stop leaking this energy everywhere, when you stop chasing, when you stop making women the center of your world, your life gets calmer, stronger, sharper. You feel this weird peace in your chest, and suddenly they notice you. They move toward you. They wonder about you. They want to be part of your story because you're no longer a man begging for connection. You're a man building a legacy. So here's my promise to you. If you stay through this video, I'll show you exactly how detachment, discipline, emotional control, purpose, and the right use of sexual energy can turn you from a man driven by lust into a man who builds greatness. By the end, you will understand the kind of power that makes you attractive, peaceful, and utterly hard to replace. Are you ready? Let's start. Let me hit you with a strange idea. A little wild, a little uncomfortable, but real. What if the problem isn't that you want women too much, but that you don't understand what your desire is trying to say? Think about that for a second. What if your desire wasn't built to chase women, but built to chase greatness, built to build, built to create, not to collapse? And here's the hook you didn't expect. Most men waste their sexual energy not because they are weak, but because nobody ever taught them what it really is. Now let me ask you questions that might hit deep. Why do so many men feel drained after chasing lust? Why do men lose focus the moment they get obsessed with someone? Why does your mind suddenly get foggy when you want someone too much? Why do your goals fade into the background the moment a woman gives you attention? Why does lust control your choices like a remote in someone else's hands? And tell me honestly, why does it feel like every time you try harder, show more interest, give more attention, your value drops? Why does she seem excited when you're busy but distant when you're available? Ever wonder why? Ever question if your energy is being misused? Ever ask yourself if you're trading your potential for a moment of pleasure? Listen closely. This is where the real value enters. Sexual energy is the strongest force a man holds. It's not a joke. It's not spiritual fluff. It's nature, raw nature. It's the same energy that makes men create empires, the same fire that makes you want to conquer challenges, the same spark inside kings, warriors, builders, inventors. But here's the brutal truth. When that energy is not controlled, it becomes your enemy. It steals your focus, steals your discipline, steals your drive. It makes you chase instead of build, react instead of lead, beg instead of attract. And I know you've felt this before. You've felt days where you woke up strong, sharp, calm, and days where you felt desperate, distracted, weak. What changed? Not your body, not your intelligence, not your future, only your energy. Where it went, where you leaked it, where you gave it away too fast. Let me give you a story. Simple, short, but it hits. Imagine a man holding a bucket of water in the desert. That water is life, it's strength. It can grow a garden, it can save a family, it can build a village. But the man pokes holes in the bucket. tiny ones, little leaks. He lets the water drip out to impress people passing by. He gives it away to random strangers. He doesn't guard it. He doesn't understand it. And by the time he reaches the place where the water actually matters, the bucket is empty. That's what most men do with their sexual energy. They leak it, chase with it, lose it, forget the power in it. You want attraction? Start holding that energy. You want peace? Stop spending it. You want power? Control it. You want greatness? Channel it. Because value, real value, comes from a man who is not controlled by his urges, but a man who commands them. Women don't admire a man who is trapped in lust. They admire a man who can stand still in front of temptation and still choose himself, still choose purpose, still choose mastery. When you understand this, you stop chasing, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand your worth. Your energy becomes rare, scarce, expensive, and that scarcity makes you unforgettable. This is the start. This is the shift. This is where lust stops being a prison and becomes the fuel for your legacy. The hidden cost of chasing desire. Let me start with something sharp, something that might shake you a bit. What if the thing destroying your masculinity isn't women, isn't heartbreak, isn't rejection, but your own need to feel wanted? Yeah, sit with that, because most men don't. Most men run from it. Let me hook you deeper. What if every time you chase a woman, you are actually running away from yourself? Now let's push this further with real questions, the kind that follow you around all day. Why do you feel empty when she doesn't text you back? Why does silence make your chest tight? Why does her attention feel like oxygen? Why does your mind panic when you think she's losing interest? Why does every small sign from her control your mood like a switch? Why do you feel more alive when she notices you, but more dead when she doesn't? And here's the one that hurts the most. Why does your desire for her feel stronger than your desire for your own life? Nobody asks men these questions. Nobody teaches them what's actually happening inside. So let me tell you the truth you were never told. When you chase desire, you lose direction. When you lose direction, you lose respect. When you lose respect, you lose attraction. Not because you're not enough, but because you're giving your power to something outside you. Let me explain it with a simple story. No fancy words, just real. Imagine a man holding a compass. This compass leads him to greatness, his goals, his purpose, his mission, the things that build his legacy. But every time he sees a beautiful woman, he drops the compass and runs toward her like she's the finish line. He forgets the path, he forgets the direction, he forgets himself. And here's the twist. When he catches up to her, he feels lost again. Because he wasn't meant to chase her, he was meant to walk his path and let her join his journey. This is where sexual energy comes in again, but in a new way, a deeper way. Sexual energy doesn't just make you desire women, it makes you desire meaning. It is the fuel of focus, the force behind clarity, the power behind discipline. But when that energy gets trapped in constant chasing, you don't build anything, you don't grow anything. You don't become anything. You just want. You want her attention. You want her validation. You want her presence. You want her to stay so badly that you leave yourself. And here's the brutal truth. Chasing desire weakens your mind. Channeling desire strengthens it. Women feel that difference instantly. A man who is controlled by desire feels unstable. A man who controls his desire feels unshakable. And you know what's crazy? The moment a man becomes unshakable, women feel drawn to him without him trying. His calmness becomes attractive, his silence becomes powerful, his absence becomes meaningful, his presence feels expensive, because now he is a man with direction, a man with purpose, a man who isn't moved by every impulse in his body. He is led by something higher inside him, and this is where your legacy begins. Not when you suppress desire, but when you understand it, when you use it, when you guide it. Sexual energy, when controlled, doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you a master of yourself, a leader of your world, a builder of something bigger than lust. This chapter is the shift, the moment where you stop being a man who reacts and become a man who directs. Your energy is not meant to chase, it's meant to create, it's meant to lift you, it's meant to build your greatness, not bury it under temporary desire. What if the real power wasn't in what you do, but in what you don't let control you? Think about that for a second. Most men waste years chasing the wrong things, but what if the real strength of a man is revealed by the things he silently refuses to be ruled by? What if your attraction power grows the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop oversharing, and instead master the art of holding back just enough to remain unpredictable, unreadable, and unforgettable? Because here's the truth nobody talks about. A woman is far more drawn to the man she cannot fully figure out than the man who gives her everything too easily. And today, this video is all about that hidden masculine advantage. Let me ask you something. Why does a woman lose interest the moment you make yourself too available, even though she claimed she wanted more connection? Why does she suddenly chase the guy who reveals less, speaks less, shares less, yet seems to have more impact on her emotions? Why do men who talk too much about themselves fail, while men who stay quiet, composed, and observant pull women in effortlessly? Why do you feel drained after oversharing, yet more powerful when you keep your inner world private? Why do women test your emotional reactions, your patience, your boundaries, without ever admitting they're testing you? Why do men who respond instantly seem needy, but men who respond intentionally seem valuable? Why does mystery create attraction faster than compliments, attention, or effort ever could? These aren't small issues. These are the exact reasons most men lose their frame, their edge, and their presence. But here's where the real value begins. Today's chapter gives you one of the biggest masculine secrets. A man's true attractiveness is not in what he says, but in what he withholds. Not out of fear, not out of games, but out of discipline. This is called controlled expression. It means you don't reveal everything about your emotions. Don't reveal your entire past. Don't reveal your entire day. Don't reveal your insecurities. Don't reveal your entire attention. Don't reveal your entire energy. You choose what, when, and how much to express. Because a man who controls his expression controls the emotional climate of the interaction. Let me break down exactly why this is so powerful. 1. Controlled expression builds mystery. Mystery is not about manipulation, it's about boundaries. When you don't reveal everything, you allow her mind to fill the gaps. Her imagination becomes your ally, and a woman's imagination is always more powerful than your words. 2. Controlled expression signals emotional strength. When you don't react quickly, when you don't explain yourself, when you don't rush to fix things, you show emotional maturity, you show confidence, you show independence. Women respect a man whose emotions don't swing wildly. 3. Controlled expression creates chase. People value what is scarce. If you give constant attention, it becomes normal. But when your attention is 4. Controlled expression protects your power. Oversharing gives away your weaknesses, your fears, your desires, your triggers. And once someone knows your triggers, they can control your emotions. But a man who speaks less and observes more, unshakable. Women aren't attracted to men who open the floodgates, they're attracted to men who open the door slowly with intention. This is the difference between a man who gives his value away and a man who lets his value be discovered, and only one of them is remembered. What if the moments when you say nothing are the moments when she feels you the most? Think about that. In a world where everyone talks non-stop, in a world where men chase women with words, explanations, emotions, and text after text, what if your silence, your calm, your stillness is the very thing that makes her lean in closer? What if your silence creates more emotional pressure than any line, compliment, or effort ever could? What if strategic silence is not absence but presence amplified? Let me ask you something. Why do women pull away the moment you over-communicate, even if your intentions are pure? Why do men who explain themselves too much always seem to lose authority and emotional ground? Why do you feel the urge to fix things with words, texts, reassurance, yet it only makes things worse? Why does a woman suddenly get curious, emotional, or invested when you stop trying to convince her or win her approval? Why does she suddenly watch your stories, like your posts, or try to get your attention after you stop initiating conversations? Why do your quiet moments confuse her, but in a way that pulls her toward you? Why does a man who can sit comfortably in silence appear more powerful than a man who fills every empty space with noise? These aren't random reactions, these are psychological responses triggered by one thing. Her emotional mind feels more when you reveal less. Strategic silence, a new concept, not covered before. Strategic silence, not accidental silence, not passive silence, not I don't know what to say silence, but intentionally timed silence that increases your value, your presence, and your influence. Strategic silence is a high-level masculine skill because it does four things simultaneously. 1. Creates curiosity. 2. Builds emotional pressure. 3. Positions you as the leader of the interaction. 4. Makes her invest more energy into the connection. Let's go deeper. 1. Strategic silence creates psychological space. When you stop responding instantly, when you don't fill every gap with words, when you allow conversations to breathe, she starts thinking, she starts imagining, she starts replaying your last message, she starts wondering what you're doing, she starts asking herself what you're thinking. This is not manipulation. This is giving her mind room to work, room to desire, room to miss you, room to fantasize, room to chase. Most men don't give her that space. You will. 2. A strategic silence increases your value. Here's brutal male truth. The more you say, the less weight each word carries. The less you say, the more powerful each word becomes. When your responses are measured, intentional, thoughtful, calm, they hit differently. Women are emotional creatures. Silence creates tension. Tension creates intrigue, and intrigue creates attraction. A man who can stay silent without becoming anxious is a man with inner strength, and women feel that strength. 3. Strategic silence flips the chase. Most men text too quickly because they're afraid to lose the opportunity. But high-value men understand this. Silence is not losing communication. Silence is gaining position. When you don't jump to reply, she starts evaluating you. She starts checking your profile. She starts replaying past interactions. She starts trying to read your vibe. She wonders if she said something wrong. She wonders if she's losing your interest. And suddenly, she is the one feeling the need to close the gap. This is how you flip the chase without saying a word. 4. Strategic silence demonstrates emotional control. A woman's one test, conscious or unconscious, is emotional stability. She wants to see if you can stay calm, stay patient, stay grounded, stay unbothered. Silence is the ultimate demonstration of this, because silence is uncomfortable for insecure men. But for a man with emotional discipline, silence is a tool, a weapon, an advantage, and she senses this instant. 5. Strategic silence makes her work harder. Here's the main secret. People work harder for the attention they are not guaranteed. When you don't over-explain, over-text, over-pursue, over-connect, she starts putting effort into crafting better messages, keeping the conversation alive, asking deeper questions, trying to impress you, trying to get your emotional response, trying to pull your attention back. This is how she becomes emotionally invested. not through pressure, but through curiosity, not through chasing, but through silence. Women don't fall for the man who talks the most. They fall for the man whose silence speaks louder than other men's words. The man who uses silence thoughtfully. The man who stays calm and unreactive. The man who doesn't rush to fill emotional gaps. That man becomes the emotional center of the interaction. His silence isn't emptiness. It's presence. It's power. It's leadership. And she feels it deeply. What if the real power in attraction is the power to set the emotional temperature of the entire connection? Think about that for a second. What if the reason you feel anxious, confused, or powerless around women is because you let her set the pace, the tone, the speed, the energy, and the direction of everything? What if the only reason things fall apart is because you let her lead emotionally while you simply reacted? And what if, with one shift, a shift so simple you don't even notice it at first, you could change everything? Today's page is about becoming the emotional pace setter. A man she follows emotionally. A man she adjusts to. A man she orbits around. Let me hit you with this. Why do things always feel smooth at first until she suddenly changes the tone and you scramble to match it? Why do you feel calm sharing your energy until she pulls back and suddenly your whole mood collapses? Why do you wake up happy, but one dry text shifts your whole day into stress? Why do you feel strong and confident alone, but unsure and reactive the moment you get attached? Why do some men never lose their center, no matter how a woman behaves, while others lose control at the smallest emotional shift? Why does she seem attracted when you're calm and grounded, but disconnected when you match her emotional swings? Why does she chase the men who don't adjust to her moods, yet get bored of the men who do? These questions aren't random. They point to a single truth. You can't be attractive if you're not emotionally leading. Women can feel when a man is the one setting the emotional pace and when he's the one following it. How to become the emotional pace setter? Brand new insight. Most men think attraction comes from words, or from attention, or from action, or from what to say next. No, attraction comes from emotional leadership. A woman naturally follows a man when he moves slower than her emotions, he stays calmer than her reactions, he communicates less than her anxiety, he feels grounded while she fluctuates, he doesn't match her mood, he sets his own. This is the core skill, emotional pacing. Emotional pacing means you control the speed, depth, and energy of the interaction. She matches you, not the other way around. Let's go deep. 1. You set the rhythm of response. Here's value most men never learn. When she speeds up, you slow down. When she slows down, you stay steady. That creates balance. If she becomes emotional, you stay calm. If she becomes unsure, you stay clear. If she becomes distant, you stay centered. If she becomes intense, you stay steady. This makes you the anchor, and women are naturally drawn to anchors, not to storms. 2. Your energy dictates hers. Women pick up emotional energy faster than men pick up Wi-Fi signals. If you start worrying, if you start chasing, if you start overthinking, your energy shifts and she feels it instantly. But when your energy stays, slow, calm, composed, deliberate, she naturally relaxes into your rhythm. This is why emotionally strong men feel magnetic. They don't speed up just because she does. They don't panic because she does. They don't chase because she hesitates. Their energy becomes the emotional home base. 3. You control the depth of the connection. This is deep value, something you've never used before. The person who cares less about being understood controls the depth of the connection. When she gets emotional and tries to pull you into the chaos, you don't go in. You don't match the intensity. You don't explain yourself endlessly. You don't jump to fix things. Instead, you stay in your calm space and she moves toward you. That movement, that shift, is where attraction grows, because she now sees you as the emotional leader. 4. You don't rush to clarify or reassure. This part hits hard. A woman loses attraction when a man tries too hard to make her feel okay. She doesn't want a man who's scared of her emotions. She wants a man who can handle her emotions. She wants a man who can handle her emotions. That means, Ronus, you don't rush to comfort her fear. You don't rush to fix her doubts. You don't rush to make things normal. You don't rush to smooth over discomfort. Comfort is earned through presence, not panic. A true emotional leader lets her feelings flow without letting them control him. That's rare, that's powerful, that's attractive. 5. You become the emotional reference point. A woman will eventually calibrate her entire emotional expression around your tone, your pace, your reactions, your stability. Because women don't want to lead emotionally, they want to express emotionally, and they want a man who can hold that expression without falling apart. When you become the emotional reference point, something crazy happens. Her tone softens, her attitude shifts, her respect rises, her attraction intensifies, her uncertainty calms, her effort increases, all because you became the emotional leader. Not through games, not through manipulation, through calm masculine pacing. When you set the emotional pace, you control the emotional direction. When you control the emotional direction, you control the emotional connection. And when you control the emotional connection, she naturally invests. Not because you chase, but because you lead. A woman follows the man whose emotional world feels safer, calmer, and stronger than hers. Become that man, and attraction becomes effortless. What if the thing that makes a woman want you isn't who you are around her, but who you are away from her? Think about that for a moment. Not your looks, not your charm, not your words, not your game, but the unseen life you live when she's not there, the world you build, the direction you walk in, the fire inside you that doesn't burn for her, but burns for something bigger. What if that not romance, not attention, not effort, is what actually makes her feel drawn to you? What if attraction doesn't happen in the moments you talk to her, but in the moments she imagines your life without her? This page is about that hidden truth, how a woman becomes attracted to the life you lead, not the lines you say. Let me ask you something real. Why do women seem more interested when you're busy, but get bored when you're always available? Why do they chase men with direction, even if those men aren't the most handsome or outgoing? Why does she light up when you talk about your ambitions but grow cold when you make her your whole focus? Why does she admire the man who stands for something but lose interest in the man who only stands beside her? Why does she stay curious about men who have a life she hasn't fully explored? Why do men who build alone become the men everyone wants later? These aren't random patterns, these are laws of attraction, and most men break these laws because society teaches them. Make her your priority, give her everything, show her she means the world, center your life around love. But here's the real problem: a woman can't admire a man who abandons his life for her. She can love you, she can like you, she can find you handsome, but admiration, respect, desire, those disappear the moment you let your life shrink just to keep her close. This page fixes that problem completely. Let's dive deep into a truth most men never learn. A woman wants a seat on a moving train, not a bench with no direction. She wants to join a life that's already alive, already moving, already meaningful, not a life waiting for her to give it meaning. This means the real work isn't about winning her. It's about building a world she's proud to step into. Here's how that world is built. 1. You need a purpose she can respect. This isn't about cliches like find your passion. This is about having something that pulls you forward, something you wake up for, something your mind returns to, something that shapes your identity. Women feel a different kind of attraction toward men with missions, projects, visions, disciplines, callings, focus. Because purpose creates gravity, and gravity pulls. When a man is driven, he becomes harder to access, and therefore more valuable. Not because he ignores her, but because life itself is calling him louder. 2. You must have a life away from her, not for manipulation, not for games, not for coldness, but because without a private world, you have no mystery. And without mystery, there's no curiosity. And without curiosity, there is no long-term attraction. Your life away from her needs to include things you build, things you learn, things you practice, things you grow, things that challenge you, things that energize you, things that don't revolve around her presence. This is what makes her think about you, wonder about you, feel you even when you aren't there. Not because you're hiding, but because you're living. 3. You must show progress, not promises. Here's something powerful. Women don't fall for a man's words. They fall for his trajectory. Where you're going, who you're becoming, what you're building. Progress makes you attractive. Movement makes you attractive. Momentum makes you attractive. Why? Because progress means you're growing, and growth means you are scarce, and scarcity makes you valuable. A man who stays in the same place too long, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, becomes predictable. Predictability kills desire. Movement brings it back to life. 4. You must have a standard she must rise to, not rules, not control, not dominance. A standard. Men without standards become easy. Men with standards become respected. Your time, your focus, your space, these are not casual things. When you protect them, she respects you, she adjusts to you, she steps up to be part of your life, instead of expecting your life to revolve around hers. This creates natural attraction, not forced, not fake, not manipulated, just rooted in your self-worth. 5. You must be a man who can walk alone. Here's a truth that feels harsh but saves lives. A man who cannot walk alone will never walk with power. You must be able to eat alone, think alone, work alone, travel alone, grow alone, heal alone, dream alone. The man who doesn't fear solitude becomes unbreakable, unshakable, unrushed, unpressured. This is the kind of man women feel magnetized to because he doesn't need them, he chooses them. That difference changes everything. You don't attract a woman by making her your focus. You attract her by making your life your focus, and the stronger your life becomes, the stronger her desire becomes. Attraction isn't built in the moments she's with you. It's built in the moments she imagines the man you are when you're not around. Build a world so powerful, so meaningful, so driven, that she feels lucky to be invited into it. What if the energy that makes you crave women is the same energy that could make you unstoppable? Sounds wild, right? Imagine this. The same force that pulls you toward desire, the same fire that makes you chase pleasure, the same spark that makes you attracted to beauty. What if that energy wasn't meant to control you, but to build you? What if lust was never supposed to be your weakness but your fuel, your engine, your power source, your fire for greatness? Sounds strange, feels strange, but it's true. That's what this page is about. Let me ask you something honest. Why do you feel empty after giving too much attention or desire to a woman who hasn't earned it? Why do you lose focus and drive when you get trapped in lust or chasing? Why does your energy drop after moments of pleasure instead of rising? Why do you stop working on yourself the moment a woman gives you attention? Why do your goals suddenly seem less important when attraction hits? Why do women respect you less when you give them all your energy and respect you more when you guard it? Strange, right? Many men never notice this. They spend their sexual energy, they waste their desire, they chase connection before building direction. They give women the fire that was meant to build their legacy, and then they feel weak, drained, lost, unmotivated, even confused about their place in life. Here's the truth. Sexual energy is creative energy, not emotional, not romantic, creative. It's the same force behind invention, building, ambition, leadership, hunger, creation, transformation. Most men spend this energy. Great men channel it. Let's go deeper. 1. Lust is a signal, not a destination. Lust isn't telling you, go chase her. Lust is telling you, you have energy. Use it to build. Your body feels a spark. Your mind feels a pull. But your spirit, your core, it's asking you to rise. Sexual desire is simply your nature trying to shape you into a stronger man. When you understand this, you stop letting lust drag you and start letting it push you into discipline, push you into growth, push you into purpose. You become a force. 2. The more you chase women, the weaker you feel. Let me hit you with a hard truth. When a man spends all his energy chasing pleasure, he destroys the very force women are attracted to. Why? Because chasing drains, building energizes, pleasure empties you, purpose fills you. When you chase women, your mind fragments, you lose presence, you lose mission, you lose fire, you start reacting instead of creating. Women feel that. A woman can sense when a man is lost, needy, unfocused, craving validation, drifting. That energy kills attraction. But when you redirect the same energy into your growth, you become magnetic, not because you try, because you are. 3. Sexual energy turns into discipline when you control it. Here's something crazy. The men with the strongest discipline aren't born that way. They simply learned how to redirect desire instead of spending it. Every time you control your urges, there's a tiny spark that grows inside you. Self-respect rises, self-worth deepens, your mind sharpens, you become more calm, more grounded, more confident. And women feel this shift instantly, not mysteriously, not spiritually, just biologically. When a man controls desire, he controls himself. When he controls himself, he controls his life. 4. Sexual energy becomes power when you use it to build. Want to know why some men move differently? Why they walk with purpose? Why their eyes look focused? Why their aura feels stronger? Because they are creating, not chasing. Sexual energy turns into power when you use it to push your body, not build your skills, sharpen your mind, grow your income, expand your purpose, master your craft, elevate your standards, refine your presence. This is how lust becomes legacy. When attraction arises in your body, you redirect it into growth. Your energy rises, your hunger rises, your drive rises. You don't become weaker from desire, you become unstoppable. 5. Women feel a different kind of attraction to men who control their energy. A man who wastes his desire feels powerful. Women feel the difference instantly. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to show anything. You don't have to try anything. Your energy speaks. A man who controls his sexual force has calmer eyes, stronger presence, slower reactions, clearer decisions, deeper voice, more grounded behavior. Women call it mysterious, magnetic, different. It's not magic, it's just energy mastered. And mastered energy is irresistible. Lust was never your enemy, it was your engine. The fire you feel isn't something to escape, it's something to use. When you stop wasting your desire and start building with it, you transform, your confidence grows, your purpose grows, your power grows, and attraction, it becomes a side effect of the man you're becoming. This is how sexual energy becomes greatness. This is how lust becomes legacy. The silent power that makes you impossible to replace. What if the real reason a woman becomes addicted to a man has nothing to do with looks, money, or dominance, but something far quieter, something she can't see but feels every time she's around him, something that makes her think about you even when she's surrounded by options, something that makes her compare every other man to you, and every comparison fails? What if your greatest power in attraction
is the one thing 99% of men never learn, never practice, and never even notice? Now let me ask you this. Why do some men enter a woman's life and instantly blend into the background, while others leave a mark that stays for years? Why do some men, even after giving attention, effort, gifts, validation, still get treated as just another guy? Why do some men become forgettable while others become a quiet obsession? Why do you see women chasing that one guy
who barely talks, barely posts, barely shows off, yet he somehow pulls her deeper and deeper? Why do men who try the hardest get the least respect, and men who move differently, silently, intentionally, end up being valued the most? Why does she seem to be drawn toward mystery, depth, and calm strength, but pull away from loud effort, obvious intentions, and emotional intensity? Why do you feel that the more you try to prove yourself, the less she seems to see your value? Yet the moment you stop trying, she suddenly pays attention. Why is it that silence from an ordinary man means nothing, but silence from a man with inner clarity feels powerful, heavy, magnetic? Why do women say they want good men, but chase men who have something deeper, something rare, something they can't quite explain? And here's the deepest question of all. What quality do those men have that makes a woman feel like replacing them would be a loss? Your irreplaceability is built, not given. Most men think attraction is about performance, impressing her, entertaining her, convincing her, but women don't bond with performance. They bond with energy, presence, internal stability. This entire page gives you the real formula, a formula almost no one talks about. 1. Women value men who aren't easy to read. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not emotionally exposed every second. When a man has a life, a mission, a direction, his energy becomes harder to decode. And women love decoding. They love unfolding a man who doesn't reveal himself too quickly. Value, your depth becomes her curiosity. 2. Your internal calm becomes her emotional anchor. When you don't react fast, don't get triggered easily, don't chase validation, don't rush decisions, you become the still point in her chaos. Most men add chaos to a woman's life. Irreplaceable men remove it. Value. She feels safer with you than without you. 3. You create emotional contrast without trying. Every other man tries to impress her by being intense, loud, available, predictable. You bring depth, patience, quiet confidence. You move differently. You speak with intention. You don't rush to respond or explain. You don't show fear of losing her, and that contrast sticks in her mind. Value. You stand out without effort. 4. You don't give her all the answers. She discovers you. Irreplaceable men aren't open books. They're stories you unfold. They're puzzles you enjoy solving. They are layered, not confusing, but deeper than they appear. Women don't get attached to clarity. They get attached to discovery. Value. She invests emotionally because she wants to understand you. 5. You hold your own emotional gravity. This is one of the biggest reasons women chase certain men. Some men have presence, not because they're loud, but because they're internally solid. You feel their steadiness when they talk. Their eyes don't dart around. Their voice doesn't shake. Their mind isn't scattered. This gravity makes a woman instinctively respect you. Value. You become the emotional center she orbits around. A woman becomes attached to a man who gives her mystery without confusion, calm without coldness, depth without drama, strength without arrogance, presence without pressure. This is the version of you that becomes the man she talks about, the man she thinks about, the man she compares others to, the man she does not want to lose. You become irreplaceable, not through force, but through the quality of your internal world. That is the silent power most men never master. But you are mastering it here. Becoming the man her mind won't move on from. What if everything you've ever struggled with in attraction, every moment of confusion, every time you felt overlooked, unappreciated, or replaceable, was never because you lacked something, but because you were never shown the final piece of the mindset that makes a man unforgettable? What if the solution was never about becoming more but becoming sharper, clearer, more defined, so a woman cannot place you in the same category as everyone else? And what if this final piece, the one most men will never discover, is the single shift that turns you from just another guy into a man she respects, values, chases, and chooses? Let's end this with the truth most men never hear. Before we get to the conclusion, answer this honestly. Why do some men live their entire lives without ever tapping into their highest masculine potential? Why do so many men focus on attraction, but almost none focus on identity? Why do men study techniques, signals, and tactics, but never ask, who am I becoming in this interaction? Why do men work on their outer image, but not on the internal structure that makes a woman feel, he is different from any man I've ever met? Why do men chase validation instead of building a life and a presence that naturally generates it? Why do men want women to value them while refusing to build values inside themselves? And the biggest question, why do men try to win her when the real goal is to become the man who doesn't need to win anyone because his life already commands respect? These questions matter, the identity shift that changes everything. This is the final lesson. Women don't stay for who you are with them, they stay for who you are without them. This is the one thing that elevates you into a rare category of men, not because you're trying to impress her, but because you have a strong identity that cannot be shaken by her presence or her absence. Let's break down the transformation that makes you unforgettable. 1. You lead with principles, not emotions. Previous pages talked about emotional mastery, presence, mystery, but this is different. This is about internal laws, the rules you live by, the standards you hold, the boundaries you never compromise. Women remember men who stand for something, because most men stand for nothing. Value. Your principles become your identity. Your identity becomes your attraction. 2. You build a life with or without her. Here's something powerful. A woman never attaches to a man who fits into her world. She attaches to a man who has a world of his own, a mission, a pace, a direction, a path that doesn't pause just because she's in the picture. Value. You become a moving force, and she feels lucky to be aligned with that movement. 3. You stop being motivated by her reactions. A massive shift happens when her praise doesn't inflate you, her silence doesn't shake you, her approval doesn't define you, her distance doesn't break you. You're still warm, you're still masculine, you're still connected, but you're not dependent. This independence creates a magnetic stability she cannot replicate elsewhere. Value. You unlock leverage, not by force, but by internal stability. 4. You project certainty, even in uncertainty. Certainty isn't about having all the answers, it's about trusting yourself when the answers aren't clear. Most men crumble when things feel unclear. High-value men stay composed, not calm by accident, calm by choice, calm because they know they can handle whatever comes next. Value. Your certainty becomes her emotional safe zone. Read this slowly. A woman does not compare you to other men when you've become the measure she uses to judge other men. This happens when your identity, direction, boundaries, values, life's mission, self-respect, emotional discipline are so well developed that she instinctively feels, if I lose him, I'm losing something rare. This is not ego, it's identity, it's masculine structure, it's internal value, and this is the highest level of attraction possible. The solution has already been given to you. Throughout every page, I didn't give you tricks. I didn't give you tactics. I didn't give you lines, formulas, or games. Those things create temporary attraction, not lasting impact. What I gave you was the real blueprint, not how to chase, not how to impress, but how to become the man whose presence naturally creates desire. Page after page, you were shown how to build clarity, build discipline, build emotional depth, build boundaries, build mystery, build internal stability, build masculine gravity, build identity, build irreplaceability. And now, on page 10, you're shown the final truth. You don't attract through effort. You attract through alignment. You attract through identity. You attract through becoming. If you apply even 10% of what these pages gave you, you will not just succeed with women, you'll succeed with life. If you apply all of it, you will transform into the man that no woman ever forgets, the man who doesn't chase respect, he commands it, the man who doesn't beg for attention, he receives it, the man who doesn't fear loss because he never loses himself. The solution wasn't hidden, the solution wasn't complicated, the solution was you becoming your highest version.